It was a cold Friday night in November, and the highway stretched endlessly under a black sky. Headlights sliced through fog so thick it seemed alive, swirling back together after each car passed. Somewhere between mile marker 87 and 92, travelers whispered about a gas station that didn't feel right, where the clerk sometimes begged customers not to leave until dawn. Would you listen if a stranger at a gas station told you not to leave? The first story was told to me by Darren, a guy I worked with briefly in 2019. He wasn't the type to exaggerate, quiet, plain-spoken, and not much of a drinker. When he said something happened to him, you listened. I remember sitting across from him in the diner off Route 17, the smell of burnt coffee in the air, while he stirred sugar into his cup without taking a sip. His eyes stayed fixed on the window as he began. Darren had been 23 at the time. He was driving home from his sister's place in Ohio, heading back toward Pennsylvania after spending the weekend helping her move. It was late, 11:47 p.m. on Saturday, November 14th, 2015. His phone battery was dead, and he was relying on the dashboard clock and the half-full gas tank glowing on empty sooner than he expected. He pulled off at a gas station just past mile marker 89. It looked normal enough, fluorescent lights buzzing, a couple of pumps, a grimy little convenience store. No other cars were around. He stepped inside, the bell above the door giving a weak jingle. The clerk was a wiry man in his 50s, pale with sunken eyes. He looked startled when Darren walked in, like he wasn't expecting anyone. "Evening," Darren said. The clerk nodded quickly, then glanced at the window as if checking something outside. "Pump 2, Darren told him, pulling out his wallet. The clerk's hand shook slightly as he rang it up. When Darren slid a 20 across the counter, the man held it for a second too long before letting go. His voice was low, almost whispering. "You're not planning on heading back out tonight, are you?" Darren frowned. "Well, yeah. Why?" "Don't. Not till morning." At first, Darren thought he was joking, some local superstition or an old man being dramatic. But the way his eyes darted toward the dark highway outside, it wasn't a joke. "I appreciate the concern, but I've got a long drive." The clerk leaned forward slightly. "Listen to me. Between midnight and 3, this road ain't safe. People go missing. People die. Just stay, at least till sunrise." Darren gave a short laugh, shaking his head. "Yeah, okay." He stepped back outside, the cool air brushing his face. His car sat under the buzzing light of Pump 2. He slid the nozzle in and tried to shake off the unease, telling himself it was nonsense. That was when he noticed the road. For some reason, the highway looked darker than it should have. Not just night dark, but like a black sheet stretched over the asphalt. Even the headlights of passing cars, though he realized suddenly there weren't any, seemed to swallow before reaching the horizon. He finished pumping and got back inside his car. As soon as he closed the door, his eyes caught movement in the rearview mirror. Someone stood at the tree line across the lot. Still. Too still. Darren blinked, rubbed his eyes, looked again. Gone. Just shadows. He started the engine. His gut told him to wait, but his mind said it was stupid to sit at a gas station all night because some clerk muttered a warning. He pulled onto the highway. The first 10 minutes were fine. Radio humming, road smooth, only the fog creeping thicker around him. Then his headlights flickered. Once. Twice. And the engine gave a low cough, though the car was new. Darren's hands tightened on the wheel. He glanced at the dashboard clock. 12:04 a.m. That was when he saw the truck. It was an old semi, no trailer attached, just the cab. Rust ate at the sides, and its headlights burned too bright, too white. It loomed in his rear view, closing in fast. Darren eased to the right, figuring it would pass. Instead, the truck stayed locked behind him, less than 10 feet back. Its engine roared like it was angry. "Jesus Christ," Darren muttered, his voice shaking. He accelerated. So did the truck. The chase went on for miles. Fog swallowed the road, making it feel endless. Every time Darren thought about pulling over, the truck would lurch forward, almost kissing his bumper. His knuckles turned white on the steering wheel. The clock glowed, 12:27 a.m. Suddenly, the truck's lights cut out. 1 second, it was there, blinding me, rattling the highway. The next, nothing but blackness behind me. I squinted into the rearview mirror. Empty road. No sound. His chest heaved as he tried to breathe. He drove another 10 minutes before daring to ease his speed. Maybe it had turned off somewhere. Maybe... His heart pounded as he straightened out, eyes darting everywhere. That's when the radio cut off, replaced by static. Through the crackle, a voice whispered, low and broken, "Turn back." He slapped the radio off, but the whisper bled through the speakers anyway. Louder now, overlapping voices like dozens speaking at once. He covered his ears and kept driving. At 12:43 a.m., he saw it again. The gas station. Same cracked pavement, same flickering lights. He hadn't turned around, hadn't exited the highway, but there it was, right where he had left it. His car jerked as if the steering wheel had a mind of its own, guiding him into the lot. He slammed the brakes, chest heaving. The clerk rushed outside, waving frantically. I told you not to leave!" Darren stumbled out of the car. "What the hell is happening?" The clerk's face was pale, sweat glistening. "They take who don't listen. You saw it, didn't you? The driver." Darren nodded, his voice stuck in his throat. The man's eyes darted toward the road again. "Stay inside. Doors locked. Don't look out the windows till dawn." So that's what Darren did. He spent the rest of the night in that convenience store, sitting on a cracked vinyl chair behind the counter, drinking stale coffee while the clerk kept the lights dim. He swore he heard footsteps outside more than once, swore he saw headlights flicker past the window when no engine followed. At 6:19 a.m., sunlight bled across the horizon. The fog lifted, and just like that, the fear dissolved, as though the night had swallowed it back. Darren drove off in silence, never looking in the rear view. When he told me this story, his hands trembled on his coffee cup. He muttered, "That stretch of road, don't drive it at night. Not unless you want to meet the ones that never left." He meant it. I could see it in his eyes. And as much as I wanted to believe it was just a story, something in me knew better. The night was humid, the kind where the air clings to your skin and the silence feels heavier than sound. Streetlights flickered along the empty highway, leaving stretches of darkness so complete it seemed like the road didn't exist at all. Everyone who's lived near that interstate has heard whispers about what happens there after midnight. Would you believe a stranger's warning if they swore leaving meant you'd never be seen again? This one was told to me by Mia, a nurse I met during a night shift rotation in 2021. She wasn't the type to scare easily. Working in trauma wards had made her calm under pressure.
But when she recounted what happened on July 3rd, 2017, her hands wouldn't stop twisting the hem of her scrub top. She kept glancing at the hospital windows, like something might be looking back. Mia had been driving back from her cousin's wedding in West Virginia. It was late, 1:06 a.m., when her gas light came on. She spotted a faded sign for a service station 2 miles ahead and felt a rush of relief. When she pulled in, the lot was empty. The store's neon open sign buzzed faintly, but the O flickered like it was trying to die. She parked under the one working light and got out, her heels clicking against the cracked pavement. Inside, the place smelled like mildew and old cigarettes. Rows of snacks looked untouched for years. The clerk was a woman in her 40s, hair pulled back tight, expression tense. She didn't greet Mia right away, just stared at the door behind her as though expecting someone to follow. "Pump 3, $20, Mia said softly, pulling a bill from her purse. The clerk's eyes finally shifted to her. Don't what?" The woman lowered her voice. "Don't go back out there. Stay inside until sunrise. Please." Mia blinked. "Are you serious?" The clerk nodded, jaw clenched. "You're lucky you pulled in when you did. Between 1 and 4, that road belongs to something else. I've seen what happens. People think I'm crazy, but I've seen it." I forced a laugh. "Look, I just need gas and I'll be fine." But even as she said it, she noticed something strange. The sound outside. It wasn't silence. It was humming. A low, vibrating hum, like dozens of voices buried under the pavement, murmuring in unison. She froze, her skin prickling. The clerk's eyes widened. "You hear it, don't you?" I tried to shake it off, but unease twisted her stomach. She pumped the gas quickly, trying to ignore how the humming seemed to get louder every step closer to her car. When she slid back into the driver's seat, the noise cut off. Just gone, like it had been waiting for her to leave. She turned the key, engine sputtering before roaring alive. The relief lasted 5 seconds. Her headlights lit up the road and revealed figures. 7 of them, standing in the center of the highway, about 50 feet ahead. Perfectly still, perfectly spaced. Their bodies were thin, impossibly tall, limbs too long to be human. No faces, just smooth skin where eyes and mouths should be. She slammed the gear shift into reverse, tires screeching as she backed into the lot. The clerk burst through the door, waving frantically. I told you not to leave!" My pulse thundered. "What the hell are those?" The clerk didn't answer. She just pointed to the sky. I followed her gaze. Above the station, the clouds churned unnaturally, spiraling inward like a black whirlpool. Lightning flickered, but it didn't light up the ground. It lit up shadows. Moving shadows. Shapes crawling along the tree line that didn't belong to any animal Mia knew. She bolted inside with the clerk, who locked the door and killed the lights. They crouched behind the counter, the humming returning, louder now, shaking the windows. I covered my ears, whispering, "This isn't real. This isn't real." The clerk grabbed my wrist. "They know you now. You left the light. Once they see you, they don't forget." My throat tightened. "What happens if they get in?" The woman's face went pale. "They don't come in, but they wait. They'll wait as long as it takes." And they did wait. For hours, I swore I saw movement through the gaps in the blinds, long fingers brushing the glass, shadows leaning against the windows. At one point, 2:44 a.m., the store phone rang, the old rotary on the wall. The clerk didn't move. It rang and rang. Finally, I, trembling, lifted the receiver. "Hello?" A voice, my own voice, answered back. "Step outside." My blood turned to ice. I dropped the phone, the sound echoing in the tiny store. Neither of us slept. At 5:59 a.m., the humming faded. By 6:12, sunlight pierced through the blinds. The clerk finally unlocked the door and let me leave. Her car started without trouble. The road looked normal, just another stretch of cracked highway. But when Mia checked her rearview mirror, she swore one of the faceless figures stood at the tree line, watching. When she told me the story, she leaned across the break room table, her voice trembling. She whispered, "They knew my voice. They called me. I've moved twice since then. Doesn't matter. Sometimes, at night, I hear the humming in my apartment walls." I didn't laugh. I didn't tell her it was impossible, because when she said it, I believed her.
The rain came down in sheets that night, hammering the windshield so hard it blurred the world into streaks of silver. On nights like that, the road seemed to fold in on itself, leading nowhere. Somewhere past midnight, a gas station glowed like a trap, buzzing in the storm. Would you risk leaving shelter if the road outside promised you'd never come back alive? This story was told to me by my neighbor, Frank. He's a retired truck driver, 61 years old, the kind of man who doesn't scare easy. But when he sat on his porch last summer and shared what happened on February 22nd, 2009, his voice dropped low enough that I had to lean in to hear. Frank had been hauling through the night, his route taking him along that same cursed stretch of interstate. It was 2:17 a.m. when he pulled into the gas station, rain hammering the roof of his cab. He needed a coffee, maybe a smoke, before pushing on. The clerk that night was young, maybe 20. He looked nervous, kept glancing at the door. When Frank asked for a pack of Camels, the kid slid them over with shaking hands. "Storm's bad," he said casually. The kid swallowed. "You shouldn't leave until it passes." Frank chuckled. "Son, I've driven through worse than this." The boy leaned forward, whispering like someone might be listening. "It ain't the rain I'm warning you about." Frank shook his head, grabbed his smokes and left. He wasn't about to sit in some dingy station all night because of ghost stories. He climbed back into his truck, lit a cigarette, and pulled out. The highway was empty, too empty. No headlights, no taillights, just black road cutting through sheets of rain. He turned up the wipers, muttering to himself. At 2:32 a.m., he saw the figure. A man standing in the middle of the road, soaked, head tilted down, arms hanging loose. Frank laid on the horn. The man didn't move. At the last second, Frank swerved. Tires screamed. The truck fish-tailed before he corrected, heart hammering. When he checked the mirrors, the road behind him was empty, no man. He tried to shake it off. "Just the rain playing tricks," he muttered. But a mile later, there he was again. Same man, same spot in the road. This time, Frank didn't swerve. He braced and hit straight through. But instead of impact, silence, nothing. The truck didn't jolt, didn't crush. It passed through like smoke. His cigarette fell from his lips. The CB radio crackled, a voice, low and broken. "Pull over." Frank froze. He hadn't touched the mic. The radio hissed again, louder this time, multiple voices overlapping, whispering his name, his name. The headlights flickered. For 1 second, the cab went pitch black. When the lights returned, the passenger seat was wet. Rainwater pooled on the leather, and there, dripping, sat the man he'd seen in the road. Head down, neck bent too far. Frank swore out loud, swerving the rig so hard it nearly toppled. He slammed the brakes, cab lurching forward. When he looked again, empty seat. The clock read 2:47 a.m. His hands shook as he lit another cigarette, trying to keep his breathing steady.
He drove faster, willing the miles to vanish under him. But when he looked ahead, his stomach dropped. The gas station. Again. Same lot, same flickering sign. He'd looped back somehow, though he'd never turned. The kid was standing outside this time, waving frantically, rain pouring over him. Frank pulled in, gravel spraying. The boy yanked open the cab door, eyes wide. "You weren't supposed to leave! Once you go back out, they follow you!" Frank grabbed his arm. "What the hell is happening out here?" The kid's lips trembled. "They take drivers, always drivers. The road eats 'em alive." And then, as if on cue, the station lights went out. Total blackness. The rain stopped. Too sudden, too wrong. Frank's headlights flickered on by themselves, blasting the lot in pale light. The man was there again, standing just beyond the truck's hood, head tilted. This time, he was smiling. No eyes, just a mouth stretching ear to ear. The kid screamed. Frank slammed the door, jammed the rig into gear, and tore out of the lot. Gravel flew. His pulse pounded so loud it drowned the engine. He didn't look back, not once. He made it through. Or at least, he thinks he did. Because when Frank told me this story, he admitted something. Every night since that drive, no matter where he parks his truck, he wakes at 2:32 a.m. He checks his mirrors. And sometimes, in the reflection of his headlights on the asphalt, he sees a man standing there, head tilted, waiting.